Hi, Derek. Great to see you. We've got Derek McKercher from PSW Energy here today, all the way from Perth.
Thanks for having me, Marcus.
And one thing at the podcast, it's a global tradition. You have to touch my ball.
I will touch your ball.
Yeah. You see how it gets the vibes going? See, as soon as you touch that, that's when now all that wisdom that you already have is get reactivated, and we're going to get a really good podcast
Excellent.
going.
I'm feeling fully charged.
Okay. PSW Energy, there is some history, isn't it? Because you had also or have a second company. So give us the history of PSW Energy.
Okay, so PSW Energy was formed in 2017 off the back of a surplus of other Perth solar businesses coming onto the market. And there were a lot of people found it hard to discern between the different Perth solars, that all they did was hear Perth solar this, Perth solar that. And we were accumulating really good reviews, really good customer satisfaction.
So hang on, just for our listeners. So you were doing Perth Solar Warehouse.
That's correct.
And you did really well with that.
Yeah, it started gaining quite a bit of momentum in the retail space. And it was about just using online mediums in order to, I guess, provide quality products at more affordable prices that were necessarily overinflated.
So now I'm your competitor. I see, Perth Solar Warehouse does really well. So why don't I create Perth Solar? I don't know. Try something. Well, I can't say whorehouse. I'm not getting panels there.
Well, there were many Perth. There's quite a few Perth solars out there, and thinking long term, I also had plans to not just be segmented into the Perth market. And so if we expand across the state, as we do work down in Bunbury and other places, we wanted to be a little bit more appealing to a broader regions. And so PSW Energy also gives a complementary, it gives a complement to Perth Solar Warehouse in the name. So PSW being Perth Solar Warehouse, and then Energy. And it also encompasses the broader scope of where we're actually going, because it's so much more than solar now. It is about the energy ecosystem. It is about sustainable energy, how to monitor energy, how to store energy, and how to become a self-sufficient power supply.
How's initially gone? When did you start that one?
So, funnily enough, I started business in 2004 as a sole proprietor, and we were doing a lot of energy services, electrical services, and for other bigger companies. And then by about 2011, I changed the corporate structure because we were getting more and more work, and so we still upheld warranties, and by 2011, Perth Solar Warehouse was in the market.
So you basically 2011 is really still the early days of the industry. So in that point of view, it was mainly solar, and so now the evolution of the company and the name of the Perth Solar Warehouse now to become PSW Energy really is showing the whole footprint of where we're going, which is
Correct.
Past solar.
Yeah, and it also gives us that individual identity that someone can just type in PSW or PSW Energy. It's far easier to type into a Google search, and it just makes us more identifiable. So there is both of them are a part of the same organisation.
So as PSW Energy, what services do you provide?
We provide solar power, batteries in their form of energy storage, and electric vehicle charging. And usually in a form of trying to encompass all of those working in harmony together, as opposed to in the past when they were just individual products. They're more so now devices that have the ability to communicate and optimize energy consumption.
So customers nowadays, do you still get the majority going for solar only or solar and battery? What's the percentage?
Yeah, I would say 50-50 now. It's solar only is still quite popular, but there is a large shift towards energy storage uptake. I think more people are becoming aware, especially as they start to see energy consumption data leaking out onto the grid, and they want to maximize that. Then energy storage is a natural progression.
Right. So let's say if I'm a customer and I walk in and I'm not sure if I want solar or I want solar and battery and so on. So maybe I just want to have step 1 and step 2. How can you do solar and then go seamlessly maybe a year or 2 years later into the battery? How does that work?
Well, yeah, look, the first thing I'd encourage any installation to do is get an energy consumption monitor, because that way you're more likely to see changes that you can make in even towards load shifting, because that's going to minimize the expense that you will require for an energy storage device. The average working family that probably works 9 to 5 has a energy curve that increases at the start of the day and then plateaus down to a small hum during the middle of the day and then increases at the end of the day. And what we need to do is try to pre-program devices that can shift into the sunlight production window. So if you were to think of the sunlight slowly rising from 6 a.m. to a peak of about 12 p.m. and then dropping off, that's a typical solar production curve. And then trying to program devices such as air conditioning, even a dishwasher is a common device that will come on each day. But you could shift habit to turning that on as you walk out of your home each day. So that way you're capturing around about 7, 8 o'clock and the sun has started to produce. But as you leave home, there's very little appliances that are operating. So you may as well use that window.
So what you're really saying is, because if I'm out of home and the solar operates and gives me a lot of electricity, I should really pre-program my washing machine, my dishwasher, my air conditioner to turn on while I'm out.
Absolutely.
And then run those free on solar.
Mm-hmm.
And when I come home at 4 or 5 o'clock, the house is pre-cooled.
Correct.
Again, paid for by the solar.
Mm-hmm.
So I shouldn't really leave the aircon off and then come at 6 o'clock and crank it up.
No, that's right. Because then that's not just the air conditioning that's surging at the time. It's layering of appliances that are stacking on top of each other. So even if there's a little bit of sunlight there, you're more likely to exceed the solar production capacity, which, let's say, for example, is a 5 kilowatt inverter, and you were to add your air conditioner, and let's say it does draw 5 kilowatts, and then you were to add a washing machine on at the same time, and that's drawing 2 kilowatts. And so you've instantly exceeded the production capacity.
But most people buy solar. Do they really understand all that?
I think we need to shift into having a better understanding, and that's where monitoring is key, because everything is moving towards a more intelligent use of energy consumption. Because in the past, we used to just waste energy. We had the luxury of doing that. But if we're generally interested in reducing bills, then we're shifting more to a more dynamic environment, and having an understanding of what consumes how much we're producing. It's going to open us up to a more sustainable future, because we're thinking about it.
Now, I hear sometimes people argue that, the best solar system is the best solar system because it's got the best price. Or another person says the best solar system is the best solar system because it's best quality gear. And then I also hear the best solar system is the best solar system because I had the best install. Which one is it? Best price, best quality, best install?
The installer is a component of the system. So, and it probably is the most important, because it's where your warranties begin and end. So if a product isn't installed to manufacturer specifications, there is no warranty. So
how would I know? How would I know if you followed the claim zone or not?
Well, that's why one of the best certifications that I would recommend is to be a manufacturer certified company. And it's what a lot of people don't tend to focus on. But manufacturer certified installers tend to have more intimate product knowledge. They receive regular product training. They're more aligned with specific brand specifications for installations. And it's with the amount of solar products out there, it's almost impossible to be a manufacturer certified installer with every single brand. So have a look for that on top of your usual industry accreditations. And most manufacturers now have an installer search tool on their websites.
Or basically you've maybe been picked as an authorized repair service for that manufacturer.
Yep.
So then if you install that in particular inverter, for example, and you're also their authorized repair person, you probably would know what are the right conditions to put that inverter in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if I look at Google reviews, what's your opinion on that, and how do I actually kind of do my research on those ones?
We've got 4.9 out of 5
In your Googles?
in our Googles, and even on solar quotes and I also recommend people looking at pool depth when they look at that, because that's usually related to time. So
What does pool depth mean?
So-
It's got nothing to do with the swimming pool, does it?
nothing at all, but the sample data. So it's easy to get 5-star reviews off of 15 people. But if you've got, let's say, 200, 300, you're going to get a bigger cross-section of the community, and you are more like you will have a negative experience in there. But what's important is how a company deals with it. And we've seen companies that will pay customers to remove their reviews, which is a little bit cheeky. I do appreciate it when companies leave their reviews up there, because that's very important to the consumer. People understand if things go wrong, but it's how a company resolves it. And that's the transparency that consumers should be seeking.
We talked before about that you can have good quality gear, but if the installer doesn't know what he's doing, he can still stuff it up. How do you, with your company, ensure quality?
I found that if you put pressure on people and installers, so we have in-house installers that we allow the time of one key project per day. One key project with enough time and a good amount of industry knowledge allows for a well-executed project. It's when people tend to feel rushed or pressured that they'll make mistakes along the journey, and you might not necessarily get the best outcomes.
So you're not trying to put them into 3 installs a day?
Absolutely not, because I know what it's like. I used to do it, and especially when it's hot and you're on the roof, and the last thing you want to do is get out and install another project. So you want the time to be able to commission, to do your testing, to do, especially the way that the software commissioning is required. Sometimes it can take an hour to 2 hours on site of firmware updates, and the last thing you want is to be rushed in doing that process. And the result for the customer is that you've still got an incomplete project.
But hang on a second. If I can get 2 installs a day, I can maximize my profit. Why wouldn't you whip your crews into shape to kind of get 2 done? Doesn't matter if we cut a couple of corners, as long as the customer doesn't find out.
Work out a more sustainable business model that accommodates 1 project per day, and that's 1 residential project or 1 key project. So sometimes we'll even allow 3 days for an installation. Let's say it incorporates a battery, a larger style system, and then again, we might have some days where the guys finish a little bit earlier, but they can load up for the following day and be fully prepared.
I hear some solar companies use installers in-house and others use subcontractors. What's the better way, and what do you do?
Well, we use in-house installers because we've got a better control of the entire process, and we can execute the job to a certain standard that's expected to support it ongoing. So we can allow the time, we can recover, let's say, a good proportion of site photos, and it's all built around a process of support. So should anything arise in the future, is that we can easily dissect that system from a remote location and improve efficiency and minimize downtime.
So you basically mean you've got a consistent quality because the people do the job over and over and you can fully control it.
Correct.
Okay. But you save some money sometimes with subbies.
I would argue not, if you have to return to the job because it's not done in uniform with your company's process. So
what certification does your staff have?
All of our technicians are CEC accredited electricians. We also have organisational accreditations such as the NETCC approved seller. We just got awarded the EUPD research and we were nominated in the top 2, which was a nice little win and that was based on customer satisfaction data. So you were picked as the top 2 companies in WA in terms of customer satisfaction for solar? In Australia.
Oh,
So
not just WA.
not just WA. No, it was a big shout out to Penrith Solar Centre, who did quite well there. Jake runs a good show, and I applaud his attention to customer satisfaction, because I think we follow a very similar aspect, and I think that's how the recognition, because they would look at different review platforms, and that's the other thing to look for when looking at reviews is many organizations will hone their focus and onto one review platform, and what you want to see is a diverse spread, and you want to see a balance and consistency. So if let's say we're a 4.9 company and we've got a 4.8, 4.9 across all different
We're talking
spreads.
Google reviews now.
Google reviews, solar quotes. Yeah. And so I believe that the likes of EUPD research assess customer satisfaction data and other governing factors, which they gave us a questionnaire, volume, revenue, and things like that. But when you do discern between the different platforms, you can get a general feel of where that organization is, because if you did an organizational search and reviews, there would be a lot of uncommon traits between different platforms.
So if you were found to be in the top 2 companies in Australia for customer satisfaction, what do you actually do? Do you buy them all a cake or?
Well, I want to tell you it's a proprietary process.
Just give me a few crumbs.
Do you know what? From the early days, I started to look at areas where frustration could occur and answering questions before they had a chance to arise, but without information overload. Because it's very easy to sort of blurt everything out and give a one-page answer to everything and expect someone to read it in 2023 is people won't read a huge
long and windy.
Yeah. I would even gloss over it. So what we did was drip feed information that is relevant to the person or the consumer at the time, and then basically deliver more information, and without delivering, because everybody is completely different. So some people will read the terms and conditions in the fine print, others won't, because you've got a really good reputation in the industry and I trust you. So what you have to do is appeal to both people. And so through the process, what we do is we link off to other bits of information where they can dive deeper if you choose to. If you don't, it still gives you the general information. And so it's all about just preempting the questions before they arise and thinking about the customer care journey for the entire process, not just to the point of sale, but basically taking them through the application process, keeping them in the loop the entire way. And then it doesn't finish at installation. Installation is the midpoint. Everything happens after, and how you respond is what is a true testament to a caring installer that has your vested interests. Because what we will do is we'll follow up. We want to make sure that you're using the system. We want to make sure that you're getting the benefits out of it. You're logged into the monitoring, and then you're more likely to scream it to the world that you've had a great experience.
And what about word of mouth? Do you get a lot of recommendations and new customers that way?
Word of mouth is very valuable, and it's our best marketing tool. What we do is we put the customer in the center, and it is about that ultimate satisfaction. And then you're going to get the referrals. If the customer's in the middle and all of your process happens around it, then it feels amazing. And so the guys, they must be in uniform. They must be singing the same song that we all do. And if there is an issue, they need to feel like they're supported within their peers, their entire organization, and we are a one team moving forward. So they've got different points of relay points throughout the point of the day that they can go to either their supervisor, and there's more than just one supervisor. So there's always a fail-safe mechanism to make sure that everybody, it doesn't matter whether it's the customer or the employee, feels supported throughout that journey. And if you don't have the right tools to do a job, well, if you're an electrician and you don't have your pliers, you may as well not be on site that day. So you have to be prepared. And so as an organization, we make sure that everybody is prepared and equipped to be able to execute their finest work.
Okay. Now, from when you started over a decade ago, has solar changed?
Solar's changed completely. Solar was just grid tie inverters and solar panels, and now it's so much more. There's the entire scope has opened up. From the initial expectation was batteries. There was a little bit of a delay on that. It never took off as what many people would hope, and then we saw the sudden rise of electric vehicles, which has almost overtaken the popularity of batteries now. And we see more and more people getting solar in order to charge their electric vehicles now. And then the next step would be the battery, where initially we thought it would be solar, battery, electric vehicle. There's a little bit of a swap going on in there, but it's entertaining to watch because as these things roll out, the space gets more sophisticated. And when we go back to the question of load shifting, effectively an electric vehicle is just another load that we shift in line with solar production. And you can now put in, and so when we have a better idea on those particular products, they will automatically optimize themselves, so we don't necessarily have to do the controlling. And that's where the future of it's going. So when we do the installation of a product, we can install a sensor at the switchboard that then understands if additional energy is being exported to the grid and then diverts electricity to the charging of the vehicle. And that's called solar optimization. Solar optimization is what we'll expect from general appliances in the near future.
So basically, appliances can read, or the car can read, or the aircon can read that there is free solar available.
Correct.
And at that point in time, I charge the car, or I decide to give my aircon a bit of a boost because the house has gone a bit warm.
So we have to think less about it, which is great, right? But that comes at a cost. So if you're prepared to invest in it, then it's a really good solution. But yeah, you can minimize that outlay by just thinking about it. But then when you're ready to go to the next level, it's there. It's coming. Everything is going to interconnect with each other and communicate.
Export of solar. In the olden days, we got a decent feed-in tariff. It has come a little bit down. Has that reduced the overall effectiveness of solar and the payback?
I tend to think more in the way of direct utilization, irrelevant of feed-in tariffs. I tend to ignore them entirely because they are the most you're going to get in Western Australia is 2.25 cents at peak sunlight hours. After 3 o'clock, it's 10 cents, but you're probably too busy using those appliances at that time because that's when most people start coming back online. I wouldn't really be too concerned about feed-in tariffs. I think you're better off looking at self-utilization. We don't have the luxury of playing the different markets that the East Coast has. So for a more simplified market such as Western Australia with one energy retailer, we're better off just looking at self-consumption as much as possible and smart utilization of solar. And that's where you're going to get the benefits from. You can't just put it up there and hope that it's going to give you bill savings.
So battery cells, are they finally taking off?
From 2023, we've seen an exponential rise in battery sales. The battery is almost like that missing link that will get you, and you recruit appliance to do a job. And you can think about it with any appliance, a washing machine that doesn't do a spin cycle. You just wouldn't buy it now. So most people are looking towards solar and a battery as a bill reduction appliance as its primary purpose.
And how many years are you looking at an ROI of solar and battery together? About 5 years in WA?
Yeah, I would say if you were to combine it, it would be between 5 and 7 years. It depends on how you use your energy. Always it's a subjective case, but you could look at combining the two, you would be looking between 5 and 7 years.
Now, what about ROI? Everybody carries on with batteries about ROI, but I say to people, what's the ROI on your couch?
I think that's a great argument. All of a sudden, everyone becomes an investment expert once we dive into solar. It is the primary purpose is to produce energy savings, and so you can directly relate that into some sort of a formula. But look at the other features. Look at how it will enhance your world, and you do start to become more educated into what the energy consumption. You start to have backup power supplies. As soon as you integrate a battery, I'm noticing more and more in built up areas that people are reporting 6 to 10 blackouts per year. Now, with work from home, a growing space that a lot of people are contributing to, downtime is time in general is a valuable commodity that we can't waste, and energy powers our lives. So uptime is a requirement in 2023.
So if you really want to have reliable power supply at home when you have it as a home office, then a battery can guarantee that.
Yep, absolutely. For a general example is if you were to have a 13.5 kilowatt hour battery, such as a Tesla Powerwall, and you were to operate appliances that are 1 kilowatt, and then that's going to last you about 13 hours.
And if it's during the day, I'm charging as well, so
Exactly.
it actually should last longer.
Correct.
But the golden rule is if there's a blackout, your battery will support you. You will have the comfort.
Yep.
Just don't go out and bake a cake.
I love it. Yep. Just turn the baking off. Order Uber Eats, and you've got Wi-Fi, you've got the fridge, you've got a beer there. You're all good.
All right. Solar panels. They've gone bigger wattage. Are they all the same?
No, they're definitely not the same. I love REC's take on this: seek better, not bigger. And I definitely do sing the same tune. We've drawn a limit at 22 kilos. Okay, I think anything greater than that is it's detrimental to employee safety. Bigger works really, really well in large scale projects, but on a residential rooftop, you start getting mismatched voltage current characteristics, and there may not necessarily always be the ideal inverter and in-time inverter replacement for maintenance. And we do have to draw the limit somewhere. I picked out 22 kilos because after carrying panels myself, I could see that someone that was of a smaller frame than me, and I'm 6'2", and if I'm struggling with a gust of wind, then I could only imagine what they're dealing with. And especially when you have your harnesses on, you've got all these different things carrying around a 25 kilo panel, and that's usually weight is usually directly proportional to the size of the panel. So the bigger you go, really all you're doing is adding extra rows of cells, and it's increasing weight. So let's say if in today's climate, a 475 watt panel, unless it's 24% efficiency, is just a dirty big panel. And really the most common size panel at the moment is around about 440, about 22.5% efficiency. And the same thing would be that 475 watt panel of the same brand would be about approximately 22% efficiency. So sometimes it's even less. So it's certainly not better.
So you're saying that if I get offered a 475 watt panel versus a 440 watt panel, the 440 might actually be more efficient.
Correct.
And so I shouldn't just be looking at the nameplate, but I should look at the actual efficiency.
Absolutely. And it can be confusing as well, because I have seen other marketers or sellers refer to cell efficiency, and cell efficiency is obviously a lot higher and quite irrelevant in the context of how the module's put together. So module efficiency is key, but cell efficiency is listed on the data sheet, and it could be a little bit confusing. So this is why we draw the attention back to weight, and especially with a 3.2 millimeter composite glass, which is pretty much standard across the industry, your weight is going to be more relevant to the panel size.
Are they all the same quality now, or is there still differences?
There's big differences. So N-type is a new trend at the moment, which is coming out everywhere, and it's getting lower temperature coefficients and higher efficiency. And so especially when it's through N-type TopCon, HJT, heterojunctional technology, is another great one where you're getting even better temperature coefficients. So that's the performance reduction at the temperature above 25 degrees.
What most people think is the hotter it is, the better for the solar panel. But actually, if the solar panel by itself gets hotter than 25 degrees, every degree after that, you actually lose a little bit of output.
That's correct.
And so the better quality panels usually still perform a bit more and better in hotter weather. But do you find from a quality point of view, they are all pretty good now, the major brands?
I think the major brands are. They've got brand integrity that they've also got to protect. So, and when I've been to a couple of plants now, and they are fully automated to the point that it is a beautiful efficiency process, and usually they're built by European machines. So, and it doesn't matter where the plant is, whether it's in Singapore or China or anywhere. It's just a fully automated manufacturing process, and probably the area of concern, if you're trying to pick out an area of concern, could be component selection and product quality in that, because that's really, if a backsheet fails, that's probably a significant thing. So you'd want a good level of quality. But I think if you look at your key major brands, especially most of the ones that we've got in Australia are pretty good now. There's always some that come and go from the market, but you can see which brands have been entrenched in Australia, and they don't want to lose that reputation. And it's not viable for them to be putting up poor quality panels and replacing them under warranty every 5 years.
So how important is the actual install quality then for the long lasting of the system?
It dictates the performance of the system. The installation, I would say that if 99% of system failures would be derived from installation, improper installation. And because the products, it doesn't matter whether it's the inverter, the solar modules, they all have strenuous quality control processes on the key brands. But if you assemble it poorly, then you're not going to get the performance. You're not going to get the warranty out of it, and that the manufacturer isn't going to back the product if it isn't installed to manufacturer specifications.
So if I put an inverter on a nice hot baking Western wall, is that not a good idea?
I don't think it's advisable at all. Heat equals resistance, and resistance in electrical circuits slowly breaks down internal components over time. So the cooler that we can keep the system, the products, the better performance we're going to get in the short term and over time in duration of the product.
I mean, you in Perth and all of Western Australia get a lot of temperature, don't you?
Yeah.
So is that local climate really nice to solar, or does it bang it about?
Solar in Western Australia thrives. The right amount of care and attention to detail has to be put into it. So we'll often always preference a garage because it's out of direct sunlight. We try to remove as many external components. Fortunately, there's no more DC isolators. So I was never a fan of that, sitting outside on a roof, because I just saw that deteriorate over time. But now most of the exposed components, if they are hidden from the sun, then the same thing that gives your solar system life is the same thing eventually kills it over time. But it's probably one of the best appliances that you can get that can surpass in sunlight. It's just electronic components. You want to make sure that they're protected.
Okay. Now, do you sometimes go to systems that are only 5, 6, 8 years old and you find that they're actually were poorly installed and already malfunctioned, etc.? What's the story with crap solar?
Yeah, it's quite common. the downside to it is you can provide a temporary fix or a fix, and it could just be a temporary solution until it happens again, and all of a sudden it becomes an expensive exercise. It's quite common to remove the system entirely because it just you're not necessarily going to know how it's been installed the entire way, and reoccurring faults. I don't think people appreciate too
Gives
much.
solar a bad name, really, doesn't it?
It does.
Let's say we have a customer. Maybe there was a communication issue. There was something like that. I get in touch with you because I'm not happy about something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do next?
First of all, I listen to the customer. A lot of dissatisfaction does come from when people feel like they aren't being listened to or being heard. Fortunately, if it is a site visit or anything like that, having the in-house installation component of the business allows us to act quite quickly, and we're able to assist manufacturer support by relaying, I guess, direct communication from site to make sure that things are anyway.
Can you give me a sample, like a specific sample that you had in the last 12 months or so where somebody was a bit cranky about something and you had to step in and fix it?
Fortunately, I've got a great team around me at the moment, Marcus, and I haven't had to worry about that in the last year. That's a shout out to Mark. He's doing a great job there.
So you've got somebody in your team looking specifically after that area?
Absolutely. Mark has he basically it's a huge part of the business is customer support, and everybody likes different levels of support that we're aware of. Some people like direct communication, others like to work through things in their own time. So we have a solution for that, and it's a product within the business called PSW Life Support. PSW Life Support is a page that people can land on the website. It's almost a panel. It gives a full insight into support hours, but it also diverts off to self-help resources that people can do, because when you're at home, let's say the most common support query would be Wi-Fi reconnection. Someone's gone away on a holiday and they've turned their modem off, or and then they've come home and they've returned it back on. But what happens is the inverter loses the IP address and it needs to be reestablished. Now, unfortunately, this isn't a warranty issue for the consumer. It's a bit like buying a car. You have to know how to drive your car. So reconnecting devices to your modem is a responsibility of the homeowner or the end user. And so it's something that does frequently come up. So how do we support it? Well, we'll have a guide for every single inverter on there and how to reestablish their Wi-Fi connection. Because most people, when they're in that type of mindset, it's usually the weekend, right? It's a Sunday. I'm going to get on top of this house chore, that house chore. I'm going to figure that out. And so we don't have staff available over the weekend or in bespoke times. So we provide the solution there on different levels.
So you sell the solar, it's finished, you can wipe your hands, move on. Is after sales important?
Absolutely. It's important because if you do go to expand on your solar energy system, you're going to want to come back to the same company that installed it initially. They're carrying the warranty of the initial system. You don't want to necessarily always make changes by alternative installers because it can affect warranty of the existing system. So you do want to be able to have a company that you are certain that is going to be there for you for follow-up expansion devices.
Or even
products.
just if I want to add a battery or
Correct.
add an EV charger. So it makes sense for the same company to come back because they know the system, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it makes a lot of sense to pick a really correct installer in the first place.
Yes. Do the research first on your installer and shortlist those 3. I recommend 3. That's what I would be doing. And don't necessarily go over that, or else you would just be bombarded.
I've seen people who had 12 quotes and at the end they didn't know anymore if they were Arthur or Martha.
Do you know what? It actually turns them off solar. They're less likely to go down the path because you'll hear so much conflicting information.
So some people are still skeptical that solar actually can save you money. You've been in it for 10 years. Can it save you money?
Well, I think a lot of those reviews, if it wasn't saving money, we wouldn't have good reviews. I think there's a testament to a lot of products that are out there, especially where there is resistance for adoption. You just have to look at some of the more voluminous because they do save money. So an instant one that I can think of is Tesla. It's got a big adoption threshold to get across. You're probably looking about at $15,000 for a battery. But when you've got 500,000 units that are installed globally and a high degree of satisfaction, it's clearly doing something right. So, and it's probably because it's offering more value than what's originally perceived. So this goes back to the return on investment talk. All of these products have greater value than basic return on investment calculations. And I think some of the return on investment calculations are quite flawed, especially if you look at one cycle per day on a battery when you can actually get more. So people will tend to just look at one cycle per day on that.
I mean, I had a Tesla battery and I had a blackout and I was the most popular guy in the neighborhood.
You would be.
I'm the only one who had cold beer.
I love it. It is. I think it is. There is a little bit of a gloating factor that you can enjoy. I think another feature that people love is Stormwatch. And they've really thought about that entire process.
How does it work, Stormwatch?
Well, it uses also Bureau of Meteorology data to preempt that there could be a disruption in the area and from excessive storm activity that could arise, and then it preserves a nominated amount of storage so that your device switches from being an energy saving or a bill reduction mechanism to a backup power supply, and just ensures that you're reaching expectations from it.
So basically it's a bucket of water and I'm not pouring it all out. I keep a bit spare in case there's a storm and I get a blackout.
That's the best way to think of electricity, is just think like water. It just flows the same.
Right. So I'm a person, I stumbled up across PSW Energy. I'm interested in solar. I'm not sure about a battery. I will have an EV. Go with battery, go with solar, go with EV. Which way do I turn right now?
I think you should purchase within your means, and then set the expectation that if you're not looking to commit to a battery straight away, I believe that you'll see the evidence if you set the solar up right. So if you install an energy consumption monitor, you're more likely to see where the energy's going, how much you're losing to the grid, and then in a short time around, you'll make the investment into a battery. Electric vehicles are very much the same. And once again, it could be just as simple as integrating a $300 smart meter with your solar energy system, and then it gives you the scope to see where you can go. But if you just put a solar system on without a little bit of extra knowledge, then the likelihood of influencing bill savings is reduced.
But let's say I'm thinking, okay, I'll go solar only, but I'm kind of keen on that battery. But do I then need a whole new inverter?
No, you don't. No. It does depend on battery selection. So you would look at, if you've got a standard solar inverter, then you could just look at a battery like Tesla. There are new ones coming to market as well. Franklin WH have one, which is a similar sort of AC coupled battery. So there are more and more products coming to market that are retrofittable to an existing solar energy system, and they complement it quite well with their backup power supplies.
But are there some inverters that I can take a current unit, and then when I want the battery, I do some kind of software upgrade or something? How does that work?
So if you've been pre-fit with a hybrid, and there's different terminologies for this now, and you have to almost be very astute to it. So a hybrid ready is a locked inverter. So you'll see more and more people saying hybrid ready. So that means it's not out of the box a hybrid inverter, but it's got the mechanisms internally that allow it to be it. It's software locked, so that when you are ready to add a battery, you just pay a fee, and then it unlocks that component. And what that does is gives you access to probably better technology or more comprehensive technology at a reduced price point. And then the battery manufacturers, the inverter manufacturers, then usually have a similarly branded battery that can connect up to it.
Okay. Talking about inverter, there are different inverter solutions. There's string inverter, there are optimizers, there are microinverters, and there's a whole religion around them. Which way do you prefer?
Where we've shifted in the business is string inverters. A lot of string inverters are doing great things with different string strengthening techniques so SMA have the SMA shade fix, which there's a video out there of where they put Tygo monitors, monitoring only, so not optimized, they've created a small portion of shade that shifts across the array, and you can see the performance affect only the individual panels through software alone. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a string inverter or a microinverter anymore to mitigate the effects of shade.
Do you quote from a Google Earth image, or do you physically visit?
We're one of the ones that quote from Google Earth. We had to improve efficiency. And so fortunately, with my background in electrical, I have a good degree of knowledge of the different houses that in Western Australia, and what we can from a preset amount of values, we can determine that 90% of homes in Western Australia are somewhat the same. If there's any element of confusion, what we do have is we've got technicians that will visit a house. I noticed that about 7 years ago, I had salespeople that would go out to a house, and they knew enough about energy savings, but they didn't know nothing about the product. They didn't know anything about the property. So and it's not like they get on the roof and check this and check that. You've got other liabilities that occur from there. And so if there was a genuine site visit, we'd also have to send a technician around at the same time. And that comes at a cost. And sales were slowly dropping down and down and down. And so we had to look at areas of what would improve efficiency. Software is great. So the likes of Nearmaps allows us to get a high resolution image and ask a series of questions that pre-qualify a job. And if there is any area of uncertainty, there's always a technician inside the office that can bounce. And then if there is still another layer of uncertainty, we've got technicians on the road that can perform a check. And it's far more comprehensive than sending a salesperson out who might not necessarily know what they're looking for. It's an efficiency process that we had to do in order to compete. And it's not always the most ideal process, but when you have a good level of customer satisfaction, we're doing something right.
So when it comes to solar panels, in the old days, people only got 6 or 7. It was a small system because panels were so expensive. Now they've gone much, much cheaper. So how important is panel position, and what happened to the overall system size?
Well, the overall system size has come to a point where bigger is better. What the aim is to maximize the available sunlight hours so that you're optimizing for the time of day that you're more likely to use the energy. So I'm a big fan of a northeast northwest split. I think that way you're optimizing the broad range of the year. You've got the ability to harness the morning sun and the later evening sun, but with the amount of electrification that's in the pipeline, there's no reason why you can't maximize the entire roof where available. And that even includes southern aspects if you've got the available space and the amount of energy draw requirements. So in the middle of summer, southern roof, it works wonderfully.
Right. So you're saying in the olden days we only had our solar system to use the power for the house.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays we might also, or in a few years, need to power our EV. So that literally doubles the amount of electricity we're going to use.
Yeah, that's right. You're probably looking at around about an extra 10 to 20 kilowatt hours for your electric vehicle.
We need about 20 kilowatt hours for the consumption of the house, minimum.
Yep.
And at least another 13 for the car.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got 2 cars, becomes 26. So I'm looking at 46 kilowatt hours, maybe 50 a day that I'm consuming.
Mm.
How big of a system do I need for that?
Well, you would need approximately 13 kilowatts of solar, and that's going to set you up for a little bit more. Unfortunately, not everybody can have 13 kilowatts. In Western Australia, we're limited by a 5 kilowatt inverter capacity on single phase.
Ah.
So there are little tricks that we can do to get up to about 10 kilowatts, even bigger sometimes, by integrating DC coupled batteries.
DC coupled batteries can actually allow you to double the capacity in the system, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. We can do a lot of 10 kilowatt systems. It's proving to be quite popular. 10 kilowatt of solar panels, 5 kilowatt inverter, and even if it doesn't have to be a big battery. You can start with a 5 kilowatt hour battery and build it up from there. But more relevantly, you would want 10 to 15 kilowatt hours of energy storage for a system size like that to really work for you.
If you have a customer walking in, how do you work out what is the right size solar and battery system for them?
Well, the simplest way to get a general picture is to just have a look at the daily kilowatt hours on the electricity bill. So it would be described in units or kilowatt hours, and from then you can get an idea on what their load requirements are per day. Once you can determine if it's, let's say it's 30 kilowatt hours, and you might, a solar energy system that's 6.6 can generate 30 kilowatt hours on average, but you might want to oversize it a little bit more and go towards a 10 kilowatt that can do 45 kilowatt hours. But then also ask the question of what percentage of that is more likely to be consumed outside of sunlight hours, so at night time or in the morning. And then it does give you a better picture of what batteries are required, if a requirement is there. Because if it is a commercial installation or everyone's got different usage patterns, but if it is predominantly between your energy consumption is between 9 and 5, then a battery is not going to be any or much use in reducing your bill.
So you're basically looking at the individual consumption pattern and trying to find a solution.
Yeah, I think that there are good questions that, or there are questions that people can ask in order to get a good understanding of what is going to be a best fit for a customer. Asking questions is key.
So why do people that you meet in Perth actually do want to go solar? Is it more to save money, or is it the environment? What's the key reason?
Primarily, it's usually instigated by saving money, but the environment is a key factor, and there is a lot of push towards sustainability, and more people are becoming conscious of the efforts that are required to reach sustainable goals, so that even if it's at least there, you're leaving the earth in a better position than what you had it.
So if I buy really cheap solar and pull it off after 5 years and chuck it in the bin,
it's not very sustainable. It is better to just put that little bit more into it, a little bit more investment, refine your search criteria by selecting a good installer with a good local reputation.
If you hand out quotes and all that, what's the conversion rate out of 10, and why do customers pick you?
We are an internet business, okay? So there is a high level of volume and traffic that does come through. We do a pretty good job with our online content. So with the high level of volume, there's not a huge amount of conversion in there, but everybody is at a different point in their buying cycle. So not everyone's ready to buy right now. They might be curious. They might have seen something on the ad. They might have had a door knocker come to their house. And so what we're doing each day is we're answering those questions. And irrelevant of whether they're a customer or not, we're treating them like they are a potential customer. So that when they are ready to buy, and we've seen the case, it's been 2 years later, they've reignited that urge to go down the path of solar, and we're ready, but only when the customer is ready. We don't want to force them into buying something that they're not ready to buy.
I mean, I interview a lot of solar sales guys, and for most of them, it's all about the turnover. But in this case, with PSW Energy, it seems to be much more about the customer journey.
Absolutely.
Do you make money?
It affects it in time. Trust me. It's probably more of the longer game, but I think if you've got a good organic approach to business growth, then it comes in time, and you can naturally grow as the demand is there. It's not artificially stimulated one bit.
And so the fact you've been going over 10 years and won a couple of awards for your customer service, I suppose, proves that your approach is working.
Yeah, thank you.
I hear black solar panels are really, some people prefer them aesthetically, etc. What's your opinion on black panels?
I love black solar panels. The black solar panels, in the past, there was an argument that black solar panels would retain more heat and be less productive than a white backsheet solar panel. But black solar panels have come a long way, and there are now brands out there with a semi-transparent black backsheet, and it gives a nice seamless look to a rooftop. And I think the better looking that you can make a solar system on a house, because it is somebody's investment, that it can enhance the value and appeal of your home, then with a minimal performance detriment, then go for it. I don't. They are so close in specifications now. There used to be a wider gap, but now there's not, and there's minimal heat retention.
So the aesthetic look of the solar system is quite important, because no point saving $500 a quarter and then have $20,000 uglier house.
100%. So we even complement that with full black mounting hardware. So even with our normal solar panels, they will have the full black mounting hardware because it will complement the black frame. But once you put a full black panel on, it looks amazing. Love it.
Now, I hear solar doesn't have many moving parts, so does it need any maintenance?
It needs a level of maintenance, but that is subjective. Having a visual over the system at a regular interval will give you an indication of how much soiling is actually building up on the system, because most of the solar panels are self-cleaning by rain. The levels of soiling is what needs to be monitored, because if you're in suburbia, it's quite minimal. But if you're in a construction environment, or if you're on the ocean and you might have bird soiling, then maintenance is something that should be more considered.
But you can tell on the monitoring if that system maybe is underperforming and maybe should have a look at?
I believe you can. And good software allows you to see the historical data banked over time and the averages of your monthly yield. And so you can zoom out a little bit more. And if it's something that's out of characteristic, you're soon going to see. And the advantage of this investment is that you don't keep adding layers to the investment to stretch out the return on investment. So the more that we can keep that to a minimal and address the maintenance requirements on a bespoke level, the better.
The more I can use of the solar power that the system generates in the middle of the day, the more I will save in solar.
Yep.
Do you educate people like that when you actually sell the system, or do you let them find out their own way?
No, we educate them, and this is where it comes into our whole PSW life support. So PSW life support isn't just when you need it, like if something drops off. It's when the moment you activate your system, there's little resources in there that tell you how to better utilize solar, because that's how you're going to get the greatest benefit, and rave about us.
Do you get customers having installed solar with you and complain they've still got a bill?
Yes.
Or bigger than what it used to be?
Yes. The reason being is the system has been operating since mid-bill cycle. The bill has just come on, and then they've got a layer of charges that are built into the bill from the activation of the solar system from the energy company. And so the bill is almost equal to or higher than the original one. But what you need to do is allow the solar to exist on the home for at least 3 months. In Western Australia, we have a bi-monthly bill cycle for homes. And so you'd want to really leave at least 2 bill cycles since you've had solar, and then you'll start to see the benefits of it. And if you're not necessarily seeing the benefits, it's usually a misalignment of appliance use versus the solar production. This is the case of appliance stacking. So if you've got too many things operating at once, you will exceed that solar production capacity. So the idea is to stagger the operation of different appliances so that they, you might do your dishwasher initially. Then let's say it's a Saturday and then you do your washing machine. And then you might have your pool pump that comes on in the middle of the day. But all at once will exceed all of that and you'll be drawing from the grid. And when you draw energy from the grid, you're not going to have bill savings.
And what's your pricing point at the moment in WA for kilowatt hour?
30 cents.
30 cents?
Yep.
Used to be what, 12, 15?
It's consistently rising. I've plotted it. And it's been on an upward trajectory for the last 10 years. So it hasn't gone back once. Historically, the only times that it was frozen was during COVID relief.
That's when you had electricity frozen.
Yep.
In the first time in 20 years.
Yep.
Well, we don't hope COVID to come back.
No, we don't.
So if you want cheap solar, go for it now, is it?
That's right. That's right. And historically, that was the time that most people worked from home. So they would have had an increase in energy bill costs.
But I mean, there are still people now who are working much more from home than before COVID. So wouldn't that have added to the demand for solar?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We get that quite often. And to be fair, a lot of people are going into small business as well. Even if it is through consultation and for more flexible working hours, it's a very common in 2023 for people to be spending more hours at home and utilising the benefits of solar energy.
I've seen once this little sketch of a guy sitting at home. It was actually a skeleton, and it said, "Waiting for electricity bills to reduce."
Yeah, they're never going down. It's a certainty of life as one of those other things because it's in demand. It's all top GDP countries have an energy dependency. So Australia is within your top 20. Any thriving economy has an addiction to energy. So. And other people have an entitlement to it as well. But fossil fuel reserves, they're limited. And so how do we empower the world to have so that everybody can have the benefits of energy? Because it shouldn't just be restricted to one country or one this is humanity.
We've gone through the cycle with the steam engine. We've gone through the cycle with fossil fuels.
Correct.
And we're right at the beginning what appears to be another cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And if the next cycle is not more sustainable, then in some way the whole future of the world could depend on it. I mean, you can argue about climate change one way or another, but I can tell you now the German winters are not as cold as they used to be. So is there anything that can actually do something well for the world and help you with your cost of living other than solar?
No.
I picked up you really love numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You love data, you love numbers. You must have done the plotting on ROI on solar. What is it?
Well, if you're maximizing usage of it, so you're achieving good utilization of it, it's within 2 to 3 years. It really is. The cost of solar is more affordable than ever. And if you can achieve a high amount of utilization, then there's a reason why companies and people are jumping onto it, because it is a highly rewarding form of energy.
So if you say 2 or 3 year payback, but then the system lasts how long? 6, 10, 15, 20?
Well, look, it should last beyond 20 years. There's no reason for it why it shouldn't. There's a couple of components in there that
maybe have to change the inverter once over in the middle.
Yeah, consider the inverter, but all of them come out with a 10-year warranty now or greater. Solar panels now have a 25-year warranty. And all of again, this is if they're installed to manufacturer specifications. If they're not, there is no warranty.
So you're saying 3-year payback, but it could last 20 years with an inverter replacement. And if I get $2,000 benefit a year, in my quick math, that's about $34,000 ends up in my pocket for my initial investment after I paid the system back.
It's a pretty good investment, isn't it?
So from that perspective, if you have the spare money and you have a house, why haven't you gone into solar yet? Well, I mean, nowadays, really, if you want to be energy independent and get a solar and a battery and an EV, you can literally move yourself from A to B and have your whole comfort, and it's still all powered by the sun.
Yeah. And one thing that a lot of people forget, you no longer have to queue up at petrol stations.
But I miss out on my chewing gum. And we actually, and I'm not allowed to say this possibly in Perth, but we had a very attractive petrol station assistant. I always went to fill up and had a bit of a look. I didn't care about the price.
It's all about the experience, isn't it?
Like with you, PSW Energy. Get your savings.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Want more energy answered? Visit yourenergyanswers.com for quality energy products, tools and calculators, and find your quality local installers. Please support the channel by liking the video, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell, and check out all our other videos. You're still here? I'll see you next time. Bye.